In this video, we are going to talk about the uses for leftover wine. So before starting this video, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. At the end of a dinner party, a night out with a date, or a night with friends, you might have 1 or 2 bottles of wine left over. You can either try to finish drinking it before it goes bad, or you can find another way to use it. Ruta works fine, but we have other options if you don't want to drink more. A bottle of leftover wine can be used in a lot of different ways, giving you the chance to get creative in the kitchen. The last few drops of rose can be used to make homemade jam, and extra red wine can be the star of everything from a chocolate snack cake to a dreamy pan sauce for lamb chops. These are some of our favorite ways to cook with leftover wine. Whether you want to make a dessert, poach seafood, or still drink your wine, but in a different way. Let's check out the 10 different ways that wine may be reused. Number 10. DIY your own red wine vinegar. In the April edition of Food in Amp, Wine Cooks, cookbook author and contributor Andrea Slonecker offered the recipe for producing your own red wine vinegar at home. Andrea also writes for Food in Amp, Wine Cooks. You will need a dry red wine with a full body, such as a Gamay or a Syrah, or a combination of many other red wines that have been left over, raw apple cider vinegar, a glass jar, cheesecloth, and a rubber band. In around 8 weeks, you will have vinegar. Remember to strain it before putting it away or using it so that any debris is removed. Number 9. Make it a salad dressing and include it into a salad. In addition to extra virgin olive oil, a clove of garlic, Dijon mustard, kosher salt, and freshly ground black pepper are required ingredients in Hugh Acheson's recipe for Basic Vinaigrette. In this recipe, you may use your own homemade red wine vinegar for the store-bought one. He proposes a few other approaches that might be used to shake things up. For instance, you may create a miso vinaigrette, a French-style vinaigrette, or even a dill pickle vinaigrette by using a variety of various components. You may make this red wine vinaigrette from Patricia Wells using just red wine if you don't have any red wine vinegar on hand. The recipe asks for a simple dressing that is prepared by combining fine-grained sea salt, extra virgin olive oil, and half a cup of leftover red wine. Is there no red? You might also use rose, white, or even a combination of other wines. Number 8. Mix it into another drink. If you tried the wine on its own and didn't like for it, you can always mix it with something else to create a new beverage. When it's chilly outside, you can either warm yourself with a cup of mulled wine. We even have a variation that utilizes Pinot Grigio. Or you can brew a traditional Spanish drink called calamazo, which is made with cola and red wine. You may adjust the sweetness of this frozen stop the hourglass drink by adding more Amontillado sherry. And if you have any extra dry rose, you should save it for this lovely sangria instead. You may choose from a white wine, a red wine, a sparkling wine, or a still wine. You are also free to consume a substantial amount of wine or a little amount. Number 7. Whip up some jam. Simply jam on its own? Delicious. Is that wine in there even more delicious? This refreshing peach rose jam is created with a cup of rose. And if you have an unopened bottle of Beaujolais lying around, you can use it all up in this blueberry Beaujolais jam recipe instead of watering it down. As soon as your wine jam is finished, you can serve it with a cheese and meat board. Spread it on a sandwich, like these ham jam sandwiches, or put it on a dish like ricotta toast. Number 6. Bake a cake. Since cake and wine create a delicious pairing, it only makes sense to utilize wine as an ingredient in your cake. Consider our Director of Culinary Operations in the large role. The recipe for red wine chocolate snack cake that Justin Chappell developed receives a boost from the fruity overtones that are found in a cup of Cabernet Sauvignon. Or you might try the gorgeous Moscato pound cake with grape glaze that was created by author Nicole A. Taylor. Both the cake and the glaze include Moscato d'Asti in some form. This Aperol spritz cake with Prosecco poached rhubarb employs a whole bottle of Prosecco, some of which is included into the cake spatter, while the rest is used to poach the rhubarb that is served on top. Number 5. Treat yourself to some wine gummies. The kumquat Riesling gummies contain a coating of citric acid that contributes to their tangy flavor and vivid orange color, and one of the primary components in these candies is dry Riesling. Only 3/4 of a cup, or 6 ounces, of Riesling is required to prepare a batch. The Kung Fu Girl Riesling is our top recommendation in this situation. You may also prepare Riesling pate de fruit by combining dry Riesling with dried apricots, sugar, and unflavored gelatin and mixing all of those ingredients together. What if you've had champagne instead? Champagne jellies are an enjoyable method to transform 2 bottles of rose champagne into an elegant dessert that is suitable for a gathering, despite the fact that they are not really candies. Number 4. Poach pears, seafood, and more. You can also use wine to poach food, such in this stunning dessert called pears. Poached in red wine, you can also poach pears in muscat. And in this recipe for Sancerre, poached scallops with soft grits. Both of these dishes use wine as an ingredient. You may substitute Sauvignon Blanc for the Sancerre if you do not have any on hand. In addition, ruby port is the primary component of the liquid that is used to poach the cranberries that are included in this stunning goat cheesecake with wine-poached cranberries. After the cranberries have been poached, the cooking liquid is turned into a gelée and spread on top of the cake, which is tinted cream, to create a striking contrast. In addition to the gelée, wine-poached cranberries are arranged in a ring around the perimeter of the cake. Number 3. Use it in stew. Stews may benefit greatly from the addition of wine, as shown by our executive wine editor Ray Isles' recipe for red wine venison stew. To create it, you will only need 1/8 of a cup and 1/2 of a powerful, full-bodied red wine such as Syrah or Cabernet Sauvignon. By the way, in addition to the stew itself, we also suggest a petite syrah to go along with it. In addition, white wine may be included in the stew. Use a cup of dry white wine in this creamy chicken stew, which has a total preparation time of 45 minutes from start to finish. Number 2. Make pan sauce. Using up any remaining wine in a dish that calls for a pan sauce is a relatively simple process. In the April edition of our magazine, we demonstrate a few alternative approaches to achieving this goal. Use a bold red wine such as Bordeaux or Rioja to make red wine pan sauce with. Cumin and chiles for lamb loin chops. Use a dry sherry such as Oloroso to make a pan sauce for pork chops. Use a dry white wine to make white wine pan sauce with creme fraiche and spring herbs, which goes well with chicken breasts. Use a dry sherry such as Oloroso to make a pan sauce for pork chops, because steak and pan sauce go together like peanut butter and jelly. You'll want to prepare this steak au poivre with red wine pan sauce as often as possible. Number 1. Freeze it for later. There is also a solution for you if you want to cook with your wine but won't have the chance to do so anytime soon. Margaret Eby, a highly bright individual who once worked with us and who asserts that wine that has been opened may unquestionably be frozen for later use. You won't be able to do this with sparkling wine, but you may freeze reds, whites, and any other wines you have on hand, and then thaw them whenever you need them. Simply get an ice cube tray, or deli containers for larger servings, and pour the wine into those containers. Eby recommends leaving approximately 1 inch or 2 of headspace, so that the wine has room to grow while it is being frozen. Be sure that the tray or container is covered so that the wine does not take on the tastes of the other dishes that are being served. Eby claims that she picked up the skills necessary to achieve this from Nigella Lawson. You may store your wine ice cubes in a plastic bag once you have frozen them in an ice cube tray. What do you think about this video? Do let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.